We are absolutely surrounded by brands every single day. I mean, from the coffee you drink in the morning to the phone that's probably in your pocket right now. But what is a brand, really? If you think it's just about a logo, well, you're only seeing a tiny, tiny piece of the puzzle. In this explainer, we're going to pull back the curtain and show you what's really going on beneath the surface.
So, let me ask you a question. When you hear the word branding, what's the first thing that pops into your head? For most of us, it's probably a logo, right? A symbol, maybe a splash of color. And you know what? For a long, long time, that's pretty much all it was.
Just take a look at this. This simple red triangle for Bass Ale, it became one of the world's very first registered trademarks, way back in 1876. Now, this wasn't about telling some big emotional story or creating a lifestyle. Nope, it was purely practical. Bass just wanted to protect its symbol so nobody else could copy it. It was, quite literally, a stamp of ownership.
And that, in a nutshell, is what we call a brand identity. It's all the tangible stuff, the logo, the colors, the fonts you use. It's what you can physically see. Pretty simple, right? But oh boy, since 1876, things have gotten a whole lot more complicated.
Because today, a brand isn't just a logo anymore. It's an entire ecosystem of feelings and ideas. Just think about Virgin. You don't just think of that scripty font. You think of a rebellious attitude, you think of a certain kind of customer experience, you might even picture Richard Branson himself. It's a promise, an experience, and a story all rolled into one.
So how on earth did we make that giant leap? From a simple mark of ownership to this huge, complex web of feeling and experience? Well, to understand that, we have to start thinking beyond just the visual.
Okay, this is probably the single most important distinction to get your head around. On one side, you've got the brand identity. That's the tangible stuff you can see. But on the other side, you have the brand itself, and that is completely intangible. It's what you feel. It's not what the company says it is. It's the gut feeling that you have about them.
And this iceberg analogy just nails it perfectly. The logo, that brand identity we talked about, it's just the tip of the iceberg. It's the small, visible part sticking out of the water. But underneath the surface, that's where the real magic is. That's the massive, invisible foundation. The company's purpose, its values, its story, its reputation. That's the real weight and power of the brand. And you know, this shift in thinking didn't happen overnight. You can actually see it evolve. In the early 2000s, you had books like Emotional Branding that started focusing on how brands make us feel. Then you had the brand gap, which looked at that space between business strategy and what customers actually experience. And it all kind of culminates with Simon Sinek's Start With Why, which made this powerful argument that a brand's purpose, its reason for being, is its single most powerful asset. So, knowing what a brand is one thing, but how do you actually build a great one? The temptation is to jump straight to the fun part, right? Designing a cool logo. But the strongest brands, the ones that last, they don't start there. They start with investigation.
It's such a simple truth, isn't it? You just can't decide where you're going until you know exactly where you are. Before you can build anything meaningful, you have to do the research. You have to really dig in and understand the market, the competition, your challenges, your opportunities. If you don't, you might create a fantastic solution, but for the completely wrong problem.
A classic tool for this kind of investigation is the SWOT analysis. It's a simple but incredibly powerful framework that forces a company to get brutally honest with itself. By looking at its strengths, its weaknesses, its opportunities, and its threats, it gets a full 360-degree view of its place in the world.
And here's what that investigation looks like in the real world. A company called the Family Building Society did their homework. They saw that the big banks felt cold and impersonal, while the smaller building societies only focused on individuals. They found a gap. Nobody was serving the unique financial needs of an entire family across generations, so they built their entire brands to fill that specific void.
And sometimes the answer is just staring you right in the face. Back in the 60s, Avis was the #2 car rental company, and Hertz was #1. Now, instead of hiding that fact, their research led them to embrace it. Their slogan became, "We're only #2, we try harder." It was honest, it was relatable, and it brilliantly turned what seemed like a weakness into their greatest strength. That is the power of starting with investigation.
All right, so you've done the investigation, you know the landscape inside and out, now you can use all that knowledge to build the absolute heart of your brand, its story. This is where you get to define your why.
A fantastic framework for this is to answer these 6 fundamental questions. They really force you to get to the core of what your organization is all about. But look at the question right at the top, the very first one. Why are we here?
That's the core purpose. That's the North Star that's going to guide every single other decision you make. And getting this purpose right is absolutely crucial. Take TED, for example. They could say they're in the business of holding conferences, that's what they do, but their purpose, their reason to be, is ideas worth spreading. And that simple, powerful idea dictates everything they do, from who they invite to speak to how they share their talks online for free.
Okay, we've done our investigation, we've crafted our core story, we have built that massive, invisible part of the iceberg. Now, and only now, is it finally time to create the tip. This is the moment where all that strategy becomes visible.
See, when you do all that hard work up front, the visual identity becomes so much more than just pretty decoration. It becomes a vessel, a container for all that meaning and strategy. And one of the most brilliant, most famous examples of this has to be the FedEx logo. At first glance, it looks simple, clean, professional, but there's a secret hiding in there.
I want you to look really closely, right in the negative space between the capital E and the X. Do you see it? There's a perfect arrow, hidden in plain sight, and once you see it, you can't unsee it. That's not just some cute design trick. That is the entire brand promise: speed, direction, precision, embedded directly into the logo. It is strategy made visible.
So it's clear brand is much, much more than a logo. It's a whole strategic process. But its power doesn't stop at the boardroom door. The most powerful brands don't just shape markets, they actually have the power to shape our culture and our world.
For example, think about Santa Claus. I mean, the jolly red-suited man with the big white beard we all picture today. He wasn't always the standard image. Back in the 1930s, Coca-Cola's massive advertising campaigns featuring these iconic illustrations helped cement that image in our collective consciousness, forever linking the spirit of Christmas with their signature brand colors.
And that just leads to this pretty mind-blowing question, right? If branding can actually help define a cultural icon as huge as Santa Claus, what else is it capable of? Well, the answer is a whole lot.
Branding can challenge cultural stereotypes, like the hashtag Like a Girl campaign did. It can bring a dying business back from the brink. It can turn a simple product, a motorcycle, into a global symbol of freedom and rebellion. It can define an entire generation and inspire them to think different. And in our darkest moments, a simple, well-designed symbol can give a voice to a cause and unite the entire world. So the logos we see every day are never just logos. They're the tip of the iceberg, the visible markers of a much, much deeper story. The next time you see one, ask yourself, what are they really saying? What are the stories that the brands all around you are telling you every single day?